Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the 20-minute fashion distraction. I am Jacqueline Jenkins, your host. You know what we do every Wednesday night? We talk total fashion, and tonight is no different. Actually, the slight difference is this is Women's History Month. And what I wanted to do was there's so much going on in the world. I wanted to take this month to celebrate the women who truly inspire me, not just by what's in their closet, but really what they do in this world and how they show up. And 20 minutes goes fast. So I am going to quickly bring them on. Hi, Adriene.
Hi.
Hi, Dawn.
Hello.
So my guess, I decided we're not reading bios only because I just wanted to get in as much as I could with these dynamic women. But I wanted, hey mom, hey Jan, I wanted to quickly though say why they are so special to me. In addition to being my Spelman sisters, and just women that when I was at Spelman, I used to look up to. Um, the work that they do in terms of legal injustice is just amazing. They'll tell you kind of what they do, but I did want to just share a little bit about the Legal Aid Society in terms of the organization they work for. So there was an article that was out, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, and there were just a few words in that article that I felt really touched why these women are so significant and what they do. Um, the words that came out to me were things like serves the underserved, preventing a second class system of service, and I almost substitute the word service for justice, underrepresented. And this one really stuck to me. We hear so much about essential and non essential. But in the context of this article and talking about the Legal Aid Society, it was talking about what one could receive in terms of services as an individual needing them, and how we, due to resources, thinking about them in terms of essential and non-essential. And actually Adrienne's going to talk a little bit about fundraising and the key and even something that's going there. So that is the intro. Very excited. Hi, Claudia. So I wanted to kick it off. Like I said, my guests are Adriene Holder and Dawne Mitchell from the Legal Aid Society as we celebrate Women's History Month. So for each of you, what is your story of how you advanced to where you are today in your career? And I don't know. Actually, Adrienne, you come up first. So if you want to go first.
Sure. Um, you know, eh, I spent my entire career at the Legal Aid Society. I think for me, the motivating factor has been just being open to wanting to be in a place where you're driven by mission. And that's what inspires me every day to keep moving is that it's just, and you can't underestimate the power of being around mission driven people who actually have their eye on the prize of serving the community. And so, to start my career there was just all that I thought. I just thought I'm going to start my career straight out of law school at the Legal Aid Society, see where it takes me. Little did I know that I would spend my entire career there. And so I just always was open to opportunities and always let the work and our clients that inspire us, because our clients, the things that we're able to do in terms of the services we provide and support that we provide. And, I run the civil practice, Dawne runs the juvenile rights practice in the same organization. How magical is that? But, we run the gamut. There's just like, we do everything: education, law, housing, homelessness, family DV, employment. And what I saw in my career is that a person with the right type of support, they themselves, when you actually give people equity and some support, they could find themselves driving themselves out of poverty in less than one generation. And so I made a career there. I kept whatever was speaking to me, I moved. And so I'm in my fifth position in the organization, and I run the civil practice, working on 50,000 cases a year, benefiting 120,000 folks in all of the range of services that our low income communities of color need in all 5 boroughs. I'm
That
happy to be here, and happy to be here with my sister Dawne Mitchell, who is a force of nature and continues to inspire me every day.
wow.
Yeah. Well, speaking of inspiration, now, couple things. Spelman is inspiration in and of itself, and it presented some opportunities for me that really lined up a career path. I spent my senior year spending every Tuesday morning with Janetta Cole. So when you talk about champions of service, when you talk about leadership, I spent these mornings, Tuesday mornings, having breakfast, learning from one of the most inspirational, motivational educators and leaders, Black women leader in the country. That was one inspiration. I know you may want to talk about others, but in my experience at Spelman, I also got to meet Marian Wright Edelman.
Mm.
And at the time, and those of us who know our Black history, Marian Wright Edelman is a trailblazer and a champion for children in the law. And so when I left Spelman, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't go straight to law school. And I actually knew I wanted to be a lawyer for children, but didn't really know how I would cultivate that. Fun fact, Jackie and I worked at the Bank of Boston. So talk about our early starts when we left Spelman. But I had the opportunity at Bank of Boston to begin my career in a leadership management program. And that just really infused in me this idea and a sense of confidence that I could really lead in any field that I pursued. So I started out in law school, and I finished, came out, and I worked at New York Legal Assistance Group as a fellow. And a lot of times, as law students, you come out and you take a short, brief opportunity because it's going to open so many other doors for you. And it did. And it led me to the Legal Aid Society, where I actually got to be a lawyer for children. So, I always, I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe the fact that I'm working together in a leadership role with Adriene Holder, who is fierce and who has been a leader long before I stepped into the Legal Aid Society, but someone I could look up to as well. But I know that our paths have been ordered, and how fantastic is that? But my career, I started as a trial attorney shortly after I finished a fellowship in the city. And I haven't looked back. I got the job of a lifetime representing children. And the thing that really drew me to working as an attorney and advocate for children was really this feeling like this community itself, the vulnerability of children is like no other. And knowing that there was disproportionate number of Black girls in juvenile justice systems and in foster care. And one of my first days in court, watching them come into the courtroom just made me realize this is the place for me when I could represent folks that look like me, look like those that lived in my community. That's really what really inspires my career even to this day. So I've had several positions at the Legal Aid Society, and I'm grateful for them. But I will tell you that Adrienne paved that way. And I want your listeners to understand Adrienne paved that way for me. And we are the same class. We were the same major at Spelman. But how beautiful is that, right? That we were classmates in a class together, pursuing this. And Spelman cultivates this desire to serve. And Marian Wright Edelman was very clear, and she talked a lot about service. And that was my takeaway from Spelman, that my career and my life would be fulfilled if I followed a career of service.
That's awesome, ladies. Thank you. And you know what? I just realized I sent you guys questions, but I probably did not ask the most important question. Can you share exactly what is the Legal Aid Society? In kind of from a mission and who you're servicing.
Go for
So
it, Adrienne.
the Legal Aid Society is it is a private not-for-profit law firm for poor folks. It is the first, and it is actually the largest in the country. that represents low-income folks. It was established in 1876, representing indentured servants and folks who were actually getting bilked of their wages. And it has grown into this organization that basically has three different areas. We have, the civil practice that I have, but we have the juvenile rights practice that Dawne was talking to you about, representing children who are involved in family court. They are the lawyers for the children that are in family court. Dawne can tell you more about that, but they are lawyers representing them in child welfare cases, representing them if they've been accused of crimes. And then I guess a smaller part of Dawne's docket involves appeals. We have the criminal defense practice, and we are the primary defender of people accused of crime. So unlike in other jurisdictions, still we are a private non-for-profit. We have contracts with the city to do this mandated work, constitutionally mandated work of representing people who can't afford an attorney who've been accused of crimes. And they have, just like Dawne's practice, there's a lot of smaller specialty units within that to be able to holistically represent whether it's a child or whether it's an adult that's going through a system and who's low income. And so they have all kinds of programs looking for alternatives to incarceration, trying to focus on the reforms of the law. And then you have the civil practice where we do everything that's not criminal or juvenile justice or child protective cases. And so what that means is that, in the civil side, when you're talking about immigration or you're talking about housing or dealing in employment or education, there's not a right to a lawyer. You can be really poor, you could be older, you could be disabled, you can be a child in need of or living in a household that needs of services, but there's not a legal right to a lawyer. And so whereas Dawne's practice is mandated representation for children, and she receives government funding from the state, and whereas the criminal receives some money from the state, but the majority of the contracts are in the city, I have to raise money. I get some government contracts, absolutely, but I have to raise money to make sure that we keep all the services going. And, it can fluctuate. Not all funders hang out with you for the whole time. What makes Legal Aid Society really powerful and unique, beyond all of that, and that's pretty amazing, it's 2,200 employees. That's social workers and lawyers and paralegals and investigators and support staff. And it's 2,200 people over 5 boroughs. We have offices in all 5 boroughs of New York City. But what really makes it the real awesome place that it is, and I kind of, I look at this, and this is the stuff that I think really kind of feeds all of us, is that we do these great things. We have this direct legal services, like direct services serving an individual. And Dawne talks about that and the difference you can make in an individual's life. And so we have high volume, higher than any other like law firm, right? Where we're working on 300,000 cases a year, impacting easily over 1 million people, if you look at household size. But then in addition to that, from that high volume of cases, the Legal Aid Society can see if there are some types of trends that we can then address, issues of injustice, systemic issues perhaps of injustice. We can address that through affirmative or class action litigation. We have all the 3 practices have law reform units that work hand in glove with one another, and we strategize on how it is that we can assist individuals. But then are there anything that we could do that have a greater impact for people who may never be able to come through our doors, don't even know the things that are going on, that we're able to stand up for them in this time and space. And then we also engage in community outreach and education, and we are known and by the faith-based community, and community partners include like social services agencies and organizers, and we have great relationships also with elected officials, which is the 4th thing that we do very well, which is engage in legislative and policy advocacy. That's what makes us truly this unique, strong problem solver and first responder whenever there's a crisis, whether it's the pandemic. We actually helped to draft the comprehensive eviction moratorium, or whether Dawne and her folks working with our homeless folks find out that Young people in the shelter system didn't have access to Wi-Fi and broadband, so they could continue their education sheltered in. The Legal Aid Society brought that case that forced the city to guarantee that those services were met. We established a right to shelter that no other jurisdiction in the country has for people who are homeless. And it goes on and on and on and on. And that's what the Legal Aid Society does. And what I look at it, because Dawne and I were the same major, if you indulge me just for 1 second, we were political science majors at Spelman College, and we had professors like Dr. Marilyn Davis and Dr. Moreland that said to us, like, they would say, get creative, and we want you, we're taking racism in the law, and they'd say, solve private discrimination. And we would say, you can't. And they would say, find a way and do it in 2 pages. You're like, oh my God. But it was the idea of thinking outside of the box to solve real issues and to understand the history of this country and the laws that are there and what it is that we could do to perhaps bend those laws, because not all those laws are just, to get the kind of justice and actually realize and actually get our clients to the point where they had the opportunities that everybody else has. And that is what I think drives a lot of us to stay here and to really continue to make our way through, because our clients inspire us, because once we are actually instruments, and it is divine that we're here, but we're all instruments, and the folks that we work with and who work with along with us are instruments. We can provide our folks with the tools they need to have the opportunities. And we see it. Like I said, I live in Central Harlem. Like, I see it. I started my career in the Harlem office, and I go to church. I work out at New York Sports Club. I walk and go to shopping with people I used to represent 20 years ago. And they and their families, they got kids going to college, graduate, like, lift yourself out of poverty. That's the American dream. And the idea that we could be instruments for that kind of change, it's empowering. It's amazing.
Well, you know what? It was amazing. So I actually am very fortunate to hang out with these ladies. They let me, just tag along with them. And I was hanging out with Dawne one day, and you're right, Adrienne. There is this thing about impacting lives, and she just casually dropped the work that she completed around getting rid of records for juveniles. On what can you talk a little bit about? I mean, that was like, we were hanging out, so I didn't really get to take a moment to take it all in. I was like, oh my God, talk about that.
Yeah, that was great success. Actually, we got more success long before we even really got to see a judge. And what Adrienne is talking about is just this: we have this ability to see systemic issues. And what we started to see was that young folks would be brought into a precinct, and even if they weren't criminally charged or ever seen before a judge, their fingerprints were taken, right, and held and stored, illegally in the city and state database. And so what was really significant about that was, if you are a young person who grows up in the city and you want a job as a police officer or a teacher because you've gone on to college and done great things, your fingerprints are taken. And we started to see just casual and calls coming in that these young people would pick up the phone, give us a call, let us know they were applying for jobs, and that these records existed, and they were looking to see how they could expunge the records, how these records were even being maintained. Young people in New York City, so our juvenile rights practice represents young people who are arrested or have an interaction with law enforcement. Many of these cases today don't see judges. There are many reforms that have been built into the system to adjust these matters and actually steer young people towards services in their community. However, that first interaction could lead to the taking of fingerprints. And so when we found out that these fingerprints were being held, it started with phone calls. We ultimately filed a lawsuit, but before we could even get to see a judge, there was an acknowledgement by New York City government that they were storing these fingerprints, and then later in additional conversations, these fingerprints we knew were being stored with the state. Some 55,000 individual young people's fingerprints were stored illegally and maintained in a database system. And so when a young person sees a judge and is even found to be guilty of a juvenile delinquency, it ends at the age of 18. So these records that were being stored illegally were being held long after young people were 18. So it's really important for us to make the case to have these records expunged and removed from these systems. And we were very successful in that. And that we have dynamite attorneys, paralegals, social workers. I mean, they do the work and the legwork that was involved in that particular lawsuit was tremendously worthwhile and really reshapes, reforms what these systems are doing and better protecting young people from being exploited by unlawful action of the government. So we're really happy about that. We've actually grown our work in that regard. We have a project that specifically works on sealing and expungement as well. So, I mean, we've represented folks who are 35, 45, and they're applying for a new job and they need these records expunged. We are doing that work to make sure that New Yorkers can have, a good life, can make meaningful wages, can utilize their talents and their skills. And that's something, just brilliant work by a bunch of folks on our teams that are working to really give folks second chances in the community. So great work. I remember that day I was telling you about it because, these are casual conversations for us. We talk about this stuff all the time. Adriene and I, a few years ago, Adriene, with the immigration matters, when Trump was just, going wild. And Adriene just called me up on a Sunday morning because she was concerned, her staff was concerned, her immigration unit was concerned about the young people who were in New York, separated from their parents. And because my staff have social workers who are specially trained to work with young people, Adriene had, really the brilliant idea that our units should work together on this particular project because there were so many young people who needed the immediate and urgent assistance of legal professionals. And so that was a Sunday morning call at 7. I pick up the phone whenever Adriene calls, by the way. And I pick up the phone and I'm like, oh, yeah, we got this. We'll take care of this. And just like that, I mean, this is the beauty of the organization. I call it cross-pollination, the cross work that we can do. When she talks about these 300,000 cases and maybe estimate of about 1 million families and household of people in these households in New York City, it's an enormous impact. We represent 90% of the kids who show up in court, right? And then we have another good few thousand, maybe about 5,000, who are not in the family court system, but might have matters in education setting. So we just doing the work that's needed in the community. We have a community justice unit. We're about to expand that to our units so that we're actually out there, front facing with the community on whatever level and to address whatever needs that are arising and being discussed in the community.
That's awesome. And so, this conversation, so we've gone over 20 minutes, but I hope the audience, no. I hope the audience is okay because I still got to sneak in a fashion question. But I just think the work that you're doing is so key. And actually, I'm usually shouting people out, and I can't even shout people out because I'm so caught in the message. I do want to, yeah, there's just some amazing comments, and Adriene and Dawne, please go back and read the comments as your Spelman sisters. Dawn's here, Claudia's here. I see Jack's here. There's just Lisa's here, Marissa, my sister's here. There's just a lot of people that are just enjoying what you all are saying. So thank you for that. But we're going to angle it a little bit, and thank you, audience, for hanging in there with me. Just to the fashion question, because not only are you guys making an impact, and it's just not New York, because so much of what happens in New York gets looked at around the world, quite honestly. So the work that you're doing extends beyond here. But you do it looking fabulous. So can you just share, because and we were kind of talking about this before coming on, now that the world is semi opening up, what are you excited to wear in your closet?
So I'm excited to wear. I was dying to wear sequins in December.
Ooh.
And unfortunately, with the surge, we just, and I know you love glitter, everything that shines. And you actually inspired me one day. We were out. And so I got this bad sequins blue, navy blue jumpsuit. And all I could think of was Spelman. My Spelman blue. I can't wait to wear it. I know there will be an event that I will be able to attend and join my Spelman sisters. And it's a pantsuit, and it's fly, y'all. It's gonna be fly.
I love. Well, you don't have to wait to wear sequins.
I know you. I know. I'm learning from you every day.
Show up. If that's the vibe you want for the day, go with it.
I know that's right. Well, I'm getting used to it as I see the symbols before me.
Right.
I always check in with Adriene actually when we have certain events. We always, our counterpart, Tina, we always have to check in with Adriene. What are you wearing to the event? Because we have to check. Now, Adriene is definitely a supreme fashionista, and her style can't be matched. But we are always checking just so we know we're in the category. We would be respected if we're standing next to her in a picture. But she's got some closet, I'll tell you.
I don't know about that.
Miss Adriene.
But I can't wait. I think I had shared with you all earlier. I will share with Jackie's community. I cannot wait to wear this yellow dress that I got. It's Solace London. It's like long sleeves on one side, and it drapes down, strapless on the other, and it's fitted, and it's just this marvelous pop of color. And I purchased it exactly 2 months before the pause in March of 2020. But I actually have it hanging on the door of my my bedroom clothes closet so that I can still see it. And I just love it. It just makes me happy. It's so bright. So I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, yes, absolutely. Keeping it in front of you is definitely a reminder. Ty is here, Lori is here. I just, I do. I want to, as we kind of wrap up, I do want to. I know you mentioned, I think it was Adriene, the whole fundraising piece, because going back to the need of supporting agencies like this, and it takes money. And so you did mention that there is a fundraising effort that's going on, and I guess I could share in a post a link if people are.
We would love that. Yeah. So the Legal Aid Society, it's legalaidnyc.org. So there's legalaidnyc.org. That is our website. If you go there, it's a nice website these days, right, Dawn?
Yeah.
And you'll see all kinds of information about what we do and our stories. You'll see Dawn and our colleagues on the page, our staff, but you'll also see ways in which you can get involved. We love it when people who want to volunteer and help out in pro bono, that's great. But of course, we love it when people donate, especially, my part of the practice, which is not mandated by government to have lawyers. And so we appreciate No donation is ever too small. But what's beautiful is that if you do find yourself going to the website and signing up for updates, you get to hear about some of the things that we're doing. We're in the press constantly. Our folks, not just like me and Dawne and Tina, our counterpart in criminal, who runs a criminal defense practice, but our staff, and making a difference every day in the good fight. And people would get updates, and also can learn about the different ways in which they can stand with us and support us. We definitely appreciate the fundraising. We also appreciate people to understand the issues and to spread the word, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what's happening to our folks in the communities and the trauma that they sustain because of poverty, because of homelessness, because of their embrace with their brush with the criminal or juvenile justice system. And it's important for folks to learn, and I think you can do that. But we're even having an event tomorrow night. We're having an event. We have a new leadership program. We believe in creating pipelines. And so we have a pipeline of leaders, of people who support the Legal Aid Society. They're young professionals, and they have a winter reception with live music. And that's taking place tomorrow night. And people can find all of that under our events tab on our website.
That is awesome. So
I got to figure out what Dawn's wearing to that tomorrow night.
Well, ladies, the way we close the fashion distraction is by saying there's one thing in life that you just cannot get back, and that is time. So we're so grateful for not only the work that you're doing, but just even coming tonight to share about it. So Adriene, Dawne, thank you so much. To the audience, I know we went 11 minutes over. I appreciate you guys hanging over, but I cannot tell you how important I think during this month of March it is to really celebrate the dynamic women in your life, in your community. There's so much negative going on, but there's so much powerful work that women are doing. So I am so delighted to have these two fashionistas here tonight. You guys listening in, please come back next Wednesday. We'll continue to celebrate women. And I hope everybody has a blessed week. Dawne and Adriene, hold on. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Absolutely. So hang on.